Hello sewers, welcome back as we learn a little bit more about facings. So we know that we have three common facings found in garment construction: the shaped facing, the extended facing, and the bias facing. Just a few fun facts about facings, just to appreciate it a bit more. Facing fabric does not have to be the same fabric as the outer shell of your garment. Now, for the extended facing, that's not an option. It has to be the same because it's an extension of your main garment. But for the shaped and the bias facing, you can have fun with fabric selection if you want to. Intentionally, I did do a contrast with my fabric just to appreciate it through the tutorial. But you can see here with the bias facing, you can have some interesting design effects through fabric selection for a facing like this, for the bias facing. Now, facings should be neatened if they're not folded under and fastened to the garment. So I did apply a neatening technique to the edge of the shaped facing and the extended facing. A few neatening options you have as a sewer are a pinked finish, using a pinking shears, an edge stitched finish, a serged finish, a bound finish, and a zigzag finish. It may be easier for you on your machine to do either the zigzag or the edge stitched if you only work with your conventional lock stitch sewing machine, because you do have an option with those two on most machines today. In my sample here, I applied an edge stitched finish to the extended facing. So what that means is I folded a narrow edge at that facing edge and I stitched it down so I don't see any raw edge when the garment is opened up to the wrong side. At the shape facing, I applied a zigzag finish. And I just changed my stitch pattern on my conventional sewing machine. I could say I have a serger, but I want to appreciate that you can do a few finishes on your machine if you don't have a serger in your workshop. Now, shape facings and bias facings are often understitched. Now, what's understitching? Understitching is a row of stitches used to keep a facing from rolling to the right side of a garment. So this is the right side of my garment. Okay, I don't know if you can see, try to get it a little closer, but I have a row of orange stitching at the on the wrong side, of the facing. So this happens on the facing and your two seam allowances. So I stitch very close. If you needed a measurement for this, I would say no more than 1/8 of an inch away. So that could have happened at the bias facing as well, but it wasn't necessary because when I applied the bias facing, I was mindful of hiding it to the wrong side of the garment. Now, for my facing, for the shape facing, you have to usually attach it to the garment somehow. Now, you can see a row of stitching in the seam. That's called to stitch in the ditch. That's one method you can use to keep the facing in place. Now, I tacked it down a bit because it was a little long and I wanted to hide it under my bias, but it should be able to move if it wasn't tacked down with stitching in the ditch. Now, besides stitching in the ditch, you could tack a facing down so it wouldn't move and come to the right side easily. You can use a hemming stitch or a cross tacking stitch. So this is important because when you have the garment on, or if you're putting your garment on, you don't want your facing to move to the outside and have to be tucked in. Or maybe you may leave the house and not even be aware that your facing is lifting up and being visible on the right side. So tacking in some way is a task that is done in professional garment construction. Okay, so those are some little fun facts about facing to make your facing application even more professional.